my own background was that my grandfather was an organic strawberry grower in New Jersey when I was a kid, and he was a big fan of J.I. Rodale, who I didn't know anything about at that point in my life. But I helped by picking strawberries and eating them on the back of a trailer behind my grandfather's tractor. Years later, when I moved back to New Hampshire after grad school in environmental science, my wife and I had a little tiny garden in Hancock, and we decided we had surplus vegetables, so we started selling them to the local market, organic market, and decided that we would try to run a market garden operation. So we moved from Hancock because we didn't have good soil there nor a good location. We were in a frost pocket. We had one year we had a frost in June and another one in August, and kind of was an impediment to doing what we wanted to do. So we moved over here to where we bought a piece of property from Lowell Reinheimer, a name that you'll recognize, an early board member of NOFA in New Hampshire. And we took a field that he had been growing vegetables on, and we built a home and started growing vegetables on about an acre. And we sold vegetables to Concord Farmers Market, and we had our own little early version of a CSA, which we called Produce by Subscription. We mailed out a letter to everybody beginning of the season, asked them what they wanted, and we grew things for them. And then theoretically, they would come and either pick up their stuff or pick their stuff when it was ready. And that worked out okay. A lot of people ended up deciding to have us pick it instead of them. But it worked out fine. We sold a lot of vegetables out of our barn and had some good years doing that. In 1986, I took a job working full-time at the Society for the Protection of New Hampshire Forest. Previously, I'd been teaching at New England College, and so I had summers to do the farm work. And it became clear in 2 years that it was just not possible to be a full-time farmer and a full-time land conservation guy at the Forest Society in the summertime. So we decided to convert the farm from organic vegetables to Christmas trees, and that's what we've been doing ever since. Let's see, but prior to that, in 1986, we put our names in the Rodale Organic Gardener of the Year contest, the thing they used to do on the magazine. And to our surprise, we won the National Organic Gardener of the Year award. Yeah, it was pretty exciting. We got featured in the magazine. They gave us a small garden tractor as a prize, which was also a great thing to have. And so that was kind of exciting. I guess prior to that, I'd written a couple of books on organic gardening that are now out of print with a friend that I mentioned to you earlier, Kathleen Kolb and Tim Fisher, who lived in Crestbury, Vermont. 2 books on intensive organic gardening came out from us, and they were widely reviewed very well, and they never sold many copies, and we never made any money, which is, I guess, the story of authors of gardening books in general. So anyway, that's sort of the history. The Christmas tree operation's been going now for 35 plus years. And we don't sell a lot of trees. We sell maybe 300 a year. We've been selling about 300 a year. And it's all organic, and we don't advertise anymore because we sell out in 2 days. It's been a very successful little business for us, but we're now at an age where we're starting to phase it out. And when you're a Christmas tree grower, you phase out over a fairly long period of time. So we stopped planting trees 2 years ago, and we'll still be selling trees 8 years from now. So I think my first involvement was going to the annual conference, which in those days alternated back and forth between New Hampshire and Vermont. And then in 1982, I volunteered to be on the conference committee for the New Hampshire version of the conference, which I would think was 1982. It was held at UNH, and it was a great. They're always great conferences. We always lost a lot of money, comparatively speaking. And then in the early 80s, I became the board chair for the New Hampshire NOFA. We had a really interesting board of people, a long list of names that you'll probably recognize from the history work you've been doing, and did that for a couple of years. And then because of my other work with land conservation work, when I left the board, I stopped being directly involved in NOFA other than as a member. Yeah. A couple of things we did during that period of time, though, is we got the first New Hampshire organic certification passed by the legislature in 1985 with a collaboration with Betsy Millard, who was a representative from Boscawen. And I think our farm was number 7 certified. It was a combination effort between the state and NOFA. And so I have a little certification form that has NOFA written on it, but it's signed by the state. And then we did various outreaches to people and publications. We even did a slideshow, and I was looking for it earlier in my box of old slideshows. I haven't found it yet. So I guess that sort of incorporates your next question a little bit, which are what are some of the milestone struggles and wins? And getting that certification program through the legislature was an early win. Getting the publications published by Cooperative Extension, I think about the same time, Alan Eaton, who was then the state entomologist, wrote a publication called, it's right here, Pest Control for Organic Vegetable Growers, which I helped him put together. So that was a sort of our first big collaboration with Cooperative Extension. And of course, the collaboration with Extension has gotten even better over the years. Well, I think, we did a lot of outreach. We had the slideshow, which we took out to garden clubs and to, whoever would see it. I remember showing it a number of times, and other board members showed it a number of times. We published a brochure, which it doesn't look like much in today's standards. This one right here, NOFA, New Hampshire. Inside we had testimonials from all sorts of really interesting people, including Lottie Jacoby, the famous photographer, Beatrice Trum-Hunter, who you may know her name, author of Gardening Without Poisons, a bunch of different politicians and Cooperative Extension folks who were well known to everybody. So it was a good sort of initial effort to reach out to the public. I'm not sure what impact it had. It was hard to know in those days. We didn't have social media or the internet. So it was all about who came to meetings or who joined as members. My favorite moments were the conferences. I mean, the workshops at the conferences were excellent. As a small grower, I learned immense amounts about various different techniques for building soil, for pest control, for marketing. Conferences were spectacular. Plus getting together with people that you ordinarily wouldn't see in the summer because we were all busy was a lot of fun. Organizing the conference was a bit of a nightmare because the one we organized, the guy, I can't remember his name. His first name was Bruce, who was our co-organizer, actually committed suicide about 2 months before the conference. And that was a tragic moment for all of us. And so we had to scrape together other people to organize it and pull it together. But the conferences were great. Other memorable moments, and I remember these well because we had a board that was filled with people who loved to talk. And board meetings would go on and on and on. And I can remember many nights not getting home till well after 11 o'clock at night for a board meeting that started at 7. So everybody had a lot to say. And we got a lot done, but it just seemed like the board meetings were pretty painful. I think becoming an integral and important part of the fabric of New Hampshire agriculture, and not just an interesting group sort of off on the side is what NOFA's done. I mean, the organic farming and agriculture has become mainstream for a lot of people. And there are a lot of young people who are eager to become organic farmers. And I've done what I can to provide advice when I can. But I think organic farming through NOFA has become part of what is New Hampshire agriculture. It's part of the mainstream now. And that I think is pretty exciting because we were pretty fringe in the 1980s. I think in the next 50 years, the overwhelming issue that we're all going to deal with is climate change. And I think NOFA has, and organic agriculture has some real important benefits that we need to really make sure are part of the solutions, the mitigation and the adaptation solutions for climate change, and expanding the scale of organic agriculture. And I realize that for many people who are in the organic farming movement, small scale local agriculture is in fact what we want to see, but it's going to have to get bigger, and it's going to have to become more a larger scale in many parts of the country. And while that may not be appealing from a sociological and cultural perspective, we're going to have to do that if we're going to solve this problem of climate change. We're going to have to start sequestering more carbon in soils and on a scale that no one has ever imagined before. And so I think that's part of the big challenge of the next 50 years. I think NOFA's got to be involved in making sure that as people decide to move in that direction, we have good scientifically based information that they can use, that we support programs that encourage conventional farmers to do more work to sequester carbon in their soils, that we are involved with the land conservation world to make sure we don't convert our agricultural soils to other uses that release carbon and don't sequester carbon anymore, that organic farmers who have forest land manage it well to produce better carbon sequestration. There's a lot of things we can do to provide good information to people, and that's part of collaborating with Cooperative Extension and the university and the other purveyors of educational information on agriculture. So that's a big part of it. Start small. Don't jump in feet first and think you're going to go out and plant 1,000 Christmas trees, which is what we, of course, have planned on in the first year, and that you're going to be able to market those successfully as soon as they're ready to go. And for other growers too, start small, learn lessons. There's a lot to know about marketing and sale of vegetables. You can grow more vegetables than you can sell pretty easily. Just learned that lesson pretty quickly. And there's so much good information about how to grow things that you can probably get bigger than you should, faster than you should, and find out financially it doesn't work. So I would say start small, grow as your market and your reputation begin to grow, and make sure you've got other sources of income while you're getting this started, because farming is never a high profit proposition, even under the best of circumstances. So, and I think anybody who's gotten into this world knows that. So anyway, that would be my advice. Start small, learn as you go. I would suggest, as I have for other people who wanted to get involved in other areas of environmental work, is as you're getting going, volunteer to help with other growers. You know, if they need help on their operations, go and volunteer and learn some lessons from them. Hear what they have to say about what works, what doesn't work. You know, not all their advice is going to apply to what you're trying to do, but the more different perspectives you gain on things, the better sense you'll have of what can and can't work for you. I mean, I'll tell you another little story that your mention of Gary Hirschberg reminded me of. I was on the board of directors of the Rural Education Center in Wilton, which Samuel Kamen and his wife Louise founded, and Gary was on the board as well. And early on, the Rural Education Center's mission was to do the kind of work that we've just been talking about, provide information for young farmers, get them interested in organic farming. And raising money was a hard thing to do. There were some donors that made it possible, but at one point, Gary and Samuel said, we got to have a product, we got to sell something, we've got to generate some income here. And maybe Gary told you this and maybe he didn't, but the first product Samuel came up with was jalapeno peppers. He had these wonderful, Samuel loved hot food, and he started processing canning jalapeno peppers, and he thought this was a potential moneymaker for the Rural Education Center. He brought them to a board meeting one time, and half the board couldn't eat them. They were too hot. So we realized right away that wasn't going to work. And I don't know who came up with the idea of making yogurt, but it was probably Samuel. And I helped with the first yogurt plant built in the back wing of the farm at Stonyfield Farm in Wilton. And they hired me to do part-time work for them to help them refurbish the greenhouse and also to plant the first crop of strawberries on the farm that they were going to put into the strawberry yogurt. And like so many things, you start out thinking it's going to be successful. We grew weeds very successfully and strawberries didn't turn out so well. And of course, Stonyfield moved from there to a bigger facility once everybody realized the yogurt was so great. And so the growing of strawberries at Stonyfield Farm was a pretty short term thing, but that was a pretty good example of what I was just talking about, starting small, and it was very small operation, but it was very successful because it developed its market faster than they could produce the yogurt. And so they had to dramatically expand in order to meet the market demand. And that's why I think Stonyfield has always been successful. It's a lot bigger than it ever, that I ever thought it would get to be back in 1981, 82, or whatever. It's just very exciting to see that NOFA has become a sort of a major player in farming in New Hampshire. And so many people are taking up organic agriculture and trying to give it a go. And so many more small operations are going to farmers markets. It's just, it's a, it's what we all hoped for back in those days. And so it's a vision that's being realized, in my opinion.